So today we are talking about kind of where the video production world is, the cinematography world is, whether that's location wise, just where it is in history, and kind of what, I guess, tips of what you have to do in this whole path to be successful.
Right.
And obviously, you and I are both not at the top of the chain. You know, I'm very entry. You're getting into it more. But yeah, so obviously, like the LA, the California vibe is where you can go to very quickly film cool looking stuff, right?
Yeah.
You're shooting the 1 minute Instagram things of models on the beach or, skateboarding or whatever it is.
Whatever the stereotypical California thing is, yeah.
Yeah. So being in Michigan, I guess, what would be some of your first steps that maybe you took of let's start off with how to not get frustrated that you don't have that California vibe.
I guess it all depends on why you're in the industry. Like what got you into it? Like, was it watching Hollywood movies and you're like, I want to be that person? Then you might fit better out in California or Atlanta or Memphis, wherever. Like there's huge film incentive and all that stuff. But that's never been my vibe for why I got into video. Like I was more into like commercial stuff, which there's a ton of that in California. But I don't think if you get into the mindset that like the only way you can do that is by being out there, then you're gonna I don't know how well it's gonna go for you. Where like, if you really want to do those projects, you can still live in Michigan, but it's getting connected with the right people to be like, hey, we're gonna shoot this California beach scene or whatever, fly me out there or whatever, and you'll still probably be cheaper than people that are out there. But I think a lot of people think getting out there is gonna like be the magical wand for like giving you the career you want. Yeah. But there's so many more people doing it at so many different levels.
For sure.
And it's all about who you know out there, and there's just a lot of factors into it. So that was never my angle, and I don't think I ever will live in California.
Right.
I've done a handful of projects out there, and I know a ton of people that do, and they live in Michigan and just get flown out there. And so yeah, it's really how you want to approach it. Like, do you want to be doing narrative projects where you're like making feature films or short films? Then you might want to go to like the cities or epicenters for where those are. And there's like, so the big thing is, so the group that I just like am graduating with this year, they're I know a handful of people that are going out to California, and their goal is to be a narrative filmmaker, feature film maker, and that's what they think is going to solve it. But I'll be interested to. I'm staying connected with most of them, and I'll be interested to see how that goes, because I've heard stories of people moving out there and then they're like 5 months out there and they're like, we can't do this. Like, this isn't sustainable. This industry seems flashy from afar, but when you get into it, you're like, this isn't for me. So figuring out what is for you, what kind of community do you want to be in? Do you want to be in a small crew where you're being collaborative and like your voice is a little stronger? Not in a positive way, like you can collaborate. And see like an impact of that. I think that's easier to do in Michigan because crews are smaller and budgets are smaller. So you have to pull more weight. And when you do stuff, people, I guess, notice a little more than when you're in a bigger crew out there.
Right.
So I think there's just like different structures to where you, like, depending on where you're at, like how that industry and the community behind that is going to be different. It's a lot smaller here. From my perspective, there's like a handful kind of leading the narrative kind of thing here, and that's like Gorilla does some stuff. They do a lot of commercial work, but their really goal is to make narrative films. So yeah, it's really interesting that where like you go out there and like there's tons of companies doing that. But are they doing it? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, even being unique out there, right? You go to California and you think you have your niche. You think you have the right lighting or the mood of your specific kind of videos that you create. And then you go out there and you realize that 20, 30, 40, 100 companies are doing that exact same thing, and they have for 5 years.
Right.
And you're like, well, they have their clientele built up. And
I think the thing too to look at too is like when you're talking about making flashy videos and cool stuff and all that, like you do have the benefit of like having beautiful landscapes
Yep.
in California, and with that state being so big, like within a handful of hours you can be in a completely different environment.
Yeah.
So you have that pro, but with you being able to fly anywhere within a couple hours now too, like if you have a decent budget, it doesn't have to be too crazy. Like you could fly out for a day and then fly back that night if you really, it would suck, but you could accomplish a lot from anywhere. And it's more so, I think, like finding a home base to where you can be, where it's affordable for you at that point, and being like, okay, this is the goal I want to go for. And then like, if you have to travel, then travel. Cause I'm at that point now too, where like I've done a lot of stuff here, but I think since I'm young enough now too, like, and wrapping up school, I want to be able to do a handful of projects like out of the country if possible, and out of the state. And just figuring out that balance. But I think a lot, like I said, a lot of people think the only way you can make it is going out to like those industries, but it's what are you trying to do in the industry?
Right, because you look at California and it's easy to say, well, people are surfing out there, the weather's beautiful, and they have the ocean, that whole vibe out there. But like, start to really hone in and look at where you're from and how's that specific, how's that unique, right? I mean, we're from Michigan and we don't have the ocean, but we do have
Midwest work ethic,
you know. So it's figured. We're out in Colorado and seeing all the like being able to take a photo at any angle and get just beautiful photo. It was awesome. But
you don't have to work with composition much then.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So when you get tossed in a scenario where it is very challenging and there isn't a whole lot of composition to look at, there's no leading lines.
How do you add depth?
Yeah. So I almost think building that company in in the Midwest, really, of where that's not just given to you, you really build a strong backbone for if kind of shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
You know, and it isn't just laid out for you. I
never thought about it like that, but I could agree, because I feel like you're like, this is horrible spot to shoot. Yeah. And then you got to really work with it to get something good. Yep. And then I've had experience where I've just like done some video stuff, and I think it was like Oregon or something, and like everywhere you drive is like beautiful, like crazy mountains and roads and stuff like that. Yeah. And I always feel like on those projects, like I get into a weird mindset when I'm snapping photos. I'm like, this isn't that great. This is like, all right, I'll take like 30 photos, and then I get home and like let that kind of settle away. And now that you're away from where you were shooting, you're like, holy crap. Like I had a good idea of composition and like how to frame things when I was in that position. Yeah. And now like when you see it from a different perspective and you're back home and there's like no hills like that, you're like, this is a great photo. Yeah. You know, so.
Yep. Yeah. So just highlighting where you come from. Yeah. Right. Michigan has so much with the UP. And even in lower Peninsula. Yeah. You know, down here, there's just so much with Grand Rapids, with, you know, West Michigan, with the Holland State Park, all the state parks along the lakeshore.
And like, are you shooting nature stuff, or are you shooting studio stuff can be shot anywhere? And and if you're shooting a ton of like, the hard thing is here, if you're doing like brand videos with a lot of outdoor stuff, and you're like going for like the fun summertime vibe, it all depends on the brand, but most of that stuff gets shot in the summer. But if you're doing like hunting videos, then like stuff gets shot in the spring, and like, or sometimes in the fall. You know, it all depends on the industry that you're in. Like automotive stuff can get shot anywhere. Usually it's out in the crazy places with crazy roads and stuff like that. But the crews come from like Michigan, or you know, you never know. So I think limiting yourself from where you are is only gonna hurt you. And it's like how you view it, and like if you want to do a project in a certain spot, then do it. But you don't have to move to California to do it. You just got to. The reason you might want to go to California to do it is get connected with the people that can get you those projects. Yep. But I think there's a way. I haven't done it, so I don't know. But I think there's a way to do it where you don't need to do that.
Well, we're so connected on social media now that you have your portfolio right there. Yeah. And we talked in a different episode about how, it's not as effective to DM, to send a message, all that kind of stuff.
But it can be a connecting point.
Yeah. Yeah. You at least have that possibility to reach out, whereas before you had to fly all the way out there, try to find somebody in the industry, and then actually get the time to meet them. Right. Now you can throw a DM and let it sit.
I was going to say, like, that guy I met with over LinkedIn, like, shot him a message on LinkedIn, and he was like, give me a call, and it was just cool to see kind of that perspective of things. And Then I talked to another guy who was like working out in New York, and he was actually moving back to like Detroit and all this stuff. He's like, let's grab a coffee. So it's cool how easy you can get connected with people at like different levels of it. And I won't ever do, I think I want to do like short films and stuff just to try, but I never will do like non-fictional stuff.
Yeah.
Just because it's just, fictional stuff. I'll do non-fictional stuff. I won't do fictional stuff just because, I don't know. And there's a little bit of that you'll get in commercial stuff. Like you're going to be building something out of nothing in a way. But, I just, and I don't think that's a really sustainable thing to do here.
Right. Yeah. Utilizing technology to find your way. I mean, it's so available to us. Where do you think the video production world is as far as like time frame? I mean, when we came from filming on such expensive equipment, it was such a large investment to get into this industry. And now with cameras, I mean, a very good 4K camera, I mean, you have the GoPros at $300 to $400, but something that you can actually get depth of field with, like a cheap DSLR, I don't know, $2,000 you can get a nice camera now, right? You can shoot a really nice video with that. So what do you think that does to the industry with making it a cheaper investment to get into? You know, is there more competition?
I think it's a weird thing because I feel like there's like a prestigiousness almost to the film industry, or like a couple years ago, and now that there's like the availability is more accessible to like everyone, like people can get into it. I feel like you get weird conflicts with that because you have people that have shot on like high-end film shoots all the time where like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of just gear. That's not even like the budget of the project, but you have that like perspective conflicting with like someone who just picked up a camera and thinks that they can shoot a $10,000 project. So it's like, which makes multiple levels of video. Then it's like, what level are you at? Like, are you just making flashy sizzle reels for companies that are just like, this is what we look like basically? Or are you doing like brand stories, or are you doing like huge campaign? You know, there's so many different levels. Are you just doing marketing videos? Are you doing product highlights? Are you talking head stuff? There's so many routes you can go in video. Or are you doing narrative films, which have investors, but you're not really doing it for a client? So there's like, it's so hard to give one answer because there's so many routes, which is why I like being in the industry, because whatever path you go down, there's 300 answers to how you could do that successfully. And
there's people just shooting stuff on their phones. I mean, you're not getting the greatest video, but with portrait mode, even on the iPhone, you know, there's people that have started their photography business strictly on using their iPhone.
Well, and I feel like at the beginning too, if you're like shooting on an iPhone, but you're really focused on story, then you're going to be able to be successful, because then you're like, the tech stuff is really important on big shoots. I mean, any shoot, like exposure and all that stuff is a good thing to have an understanding with, but like story's key. Like if people get hooked on a story, they'll watch it, even if it's like crap. I mean, that's why YouTube blows up. But so it's, I don't know. It's hard. Yeah.
Do you feel like I guess I don't even know if there's any large production companies in Michigan or in the Midwest that actually produces like movies?
Yeah. Gorilla.
They actually produce like movies?
Yeah, they just came out with a feature last summer. It was like Camp Mana, I think it's what it's called.
Wow.
And they're pushing it themselves, doing distribution themselves. I listened to their podcast, so they've talked about it a handful of times. But Eric Johnson, I met once. He's a really nice guy. He's been at it. I think he started doing like church videos, and he was like on the church grind for a while of just like being an in-house video dude, just pumping out tons of content, and then slowly started traveling a lot with. He's got some listen to their podcast, it's insane, but they've got some crazy stories that they bring in, people that have worked with them for however long they've been around, and they've been like the longest standing production company in Grand Rapids, because I feel like there's a lot, but I also feel like just as many as are popping up is as many as are cutting off, and like, here we're just gonna go work in-house or move or whatever. It's a hard industry to work in Michigan because it's like, it's niche, for the most part. But once you get involved with the right community, and they've had a big focus on that too, is making a community, and that's like half the battle. Yeah, and that's what California has. They have so much of a community. It might be too much of a community,
but that vibe.
Yeah, right.
So
building something like that here, where you can like work with people at the level you want to work at. And, I mean, they're definitely pushing the envelope for what's possible in Michigan. They shoot insane stuff that I've always been a huge fan of their work and watching their stuff. And I think that's also another thing, like, really shows you what is possible in Michigan. Like, that's, it's I think it's key to have someone like that in each, like, area, because for people, like, lower, I don't think I'd ever shoot that, and I might be wrong, I never know. I don't know if I'd ever shoot that high level of work. I just don't know if it'd be satisfying for me, but like I want to get somewhere in between where I am now and where that stuff is, and it's cool to have someone in your community like just in Grand Rapids doing that. So
so coming from like a freelancer where you're doing your own projects, right? You're wearing all the hats, you're doing everything yourself. And I mean, you're technically an artist, right? You have an eye for something. You have your own style of shooting something.
Right.
Looking at a company like Gorilla or like Carbon Stories is out of Grand Rapids as well. All those companies, how do you build a team almost, or how do you build that up so when you want to expand, when you want to grow your business, now you can kind of build this team? Because really, in the end, that's what it could be about. If you want to scale your business to be huge, right? To be global, to be you build your group, and then you go somewhere else and you build that group, and now you have teams underneath you, and you've established your business because you're dominating different locations, stuff like that.
Right.
So from an artist, I mean, obviously Van Gogh couldn't have made a business and been like, you paint this, you paint, or, you know, all that kind of stuff. How do you do that as a creator?
Scalable. Yeah. I think the big thing to look at between, I think both those Carbon Stories and Gorilla do well here, but they're different, completely different. Like what I think Carbon Stories is known for is being creators. Like they're a group of creators who can handle probably every level of production, not every level of every part of production, so pre-post, all that, and they can do it. Like I'm guessing each of their creators can do that themselves. Where when you look at Gorilla, more specialized because they're doing crazy projects. So like they hire an editor specifically, a producer, a director, and DPs and grip crews and all that. So like they're way more specific because they're like the detail that they have to go to on projects is way deeper than and because budget affects that and all that stuff. So it's hard to. Those are both video production companies, but they're so different in business models and like just the stuff that they're doing, which is cool, which shows the variety of work in Michigan. So, and I guess that's why it's also important to figure out like when you're starting to develop, like what are you working towards? Like you might start off as and I'm not saying like if you don't get past this level, then you're not going to be successful, because whatever you want to do, you can do. But, if your end goal is to be like working for Gorilla, then like you might start off at being a creator somewhere to just get the experience, do internships with Gorilla to get into that, and then you're just like building a trust, and then it takes years to get to the point where you'd be shooting or whatever. But so it's figuring that goal and then like figuring out a path and getting feedback from others that have done it in your area or not even in your area, and just like grinding. So
man, working for Gorilla, I'm sure you get to meet so many people, right? That's a large company.
Yeah, they're huge.
So whether that's actors, whether that's other lighting guys, whether you're bound to meet other people that are so into creating, and then specifically creating this theme. For sure. So it's a really cool company. It's cool to have those around and be in the Grand Rapids area where you have that around, rather than like the middle of Montana. Well,
and I feel like there's a handful like Taproot, Drop. You know, there's a lot of companies doing a lot of stuff around here, and they're all so different and have their own niches, and it's a really good thing to have. So it's exciting to see where it goes with the technology becoming more available. Obviously drones have blown up in the last few years, so people are doing little like drone real estate, you know, investing $2,000 in a decent drone. And I've never been happy with drone footage. You know, like I could agree more. I couldn't agree more.
It's
Yeah.
It's insane. Like I've spent the money on the drone, and then
because you're walking that weird line of amateur and pro. Like when you start getting into a couple $1,000 cameras, lenses, and all that stuff, and you have a lot of financials, real estate into like your stuff.
Yeah.
I think you really start like looking into more detail of being a professional and what does that even mean.
Yeah.
And then if you're working on projects where every once in a while you bring in a drone, it's like, and you have like a built up style through your camera and how you handle that. How do you convert that style into a drone where you can only do so many, like you have camera movements or whatever, and people are used to that and like that vibe. And then how do you bring that over to a drone?
Yeah.
Like the quality, it might be close to there, but like, you know what I mean? It's really, I've struggled with that. Like I've done drone work on some projects, and it's like, this pulls me out of it. So
yeah, I've even had scenarios where I'll shoot a full wedding, and then it'll be a really cool setting, whether it's sunset or whatever it is with the drone.
Yeah.
And then I'll get back in post and put that in there, and I'm like, I feel like the drone footage just does it. It's a total different. It's almost like I shot it 2 years ago.
People on weddings are just like, oh God, look at that. They're like so excited when they see a drone.
Everybody's looking up at the drone, so it doesn't look natural.
Yeah.
It's a tough piece of technology to really master.
Yeah.
You know.
For sure.
So it's really just.
It's sweet to have the access to them. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love it, and I think there's a time and place and project for everything. But, figuring out that balance, and like, don't just because you have it doesn't mean you have to use it.
Yeah.
On every project.
Even any of your tools, so like Premiere Pro, all the Adobe Suite, all that kind of stuff. That it's not necessarily camera gear. It's not a new lens, new body, drone kind of stuff. But how helpful all of that stuff is. You have YouTube as a platform to teach you everything you want to know. You want to know how to build a deck.
Seriously.
There you go. The best way to do it. And there's 8 different people telling you potentially 8 different things. The internet's also loaded with a lot of people's opinions.
Yeah.
But it's awesome to be able to see ratings and views and kind of find high quality content where you can go into, and you don't have to pay Adobe for, pay them $100 for a class to learn Premiere. You have people out there making the vlog or making tutorials on how to use all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Or like if you have a problem with your camera, you don't have to go back to your professor or whatever from film school and be like, how do I adjust the aperture?
Right.
If you
don't know how to do that, you need to go back to film school. So, but yeah.
Yeah. But simple stuff like that, or just how to utilize this camera at its best potential. Right. A new technology comes out. How do I implement that in? Like, you said you have the Ninja, that monitor, right?
I wish.
Oh, you don't have it?
No, I wanted to get one, but
like, there's some cameras where you can kind of like supercharge that camera or really get a lot more out of it.
Right. And I feel like, so the line you walk to is like what you said, with there being 7 different opinions, basically the best way to put it. Opinions being put out on YouTube of how to handle those issues. I feel like when you've done it for a handful of years, you start to be like, there's routes to do everything in different ways. So like you might be able to solve this issue with this way, but then like once you dive into those programs and have consistently worked on a handful of projects, ran into issues, just like bugs. Every program has a bug, especially Premiere. A lot of bugs in Premiere, but and at the worst times. But once you like kind of learn that and like learn how to handle those and stuff, I feel like those YouTube videos can be more helpful, because then you're only looking for like the little nuggets of like, okay, I know how to handle this, but what if this? You can get that, and it's just like growing your knowledge base, and then it's just gonna be like, I had this with the doc I was working on, just like some issues with rendering out stuff, and I had that issue in the past, and I knew how to handle it. So it's just growing that knowledge base, and it's so much easier to do when you have access to that at the beginning, and then the rest will just come from experience and being on set and running into you're going to run into issues. It's part of being digital. So
and I don't know about you, but like I would assume you're kind of the same way. I'm a very visual learner, right? I don't read books really. I can't. That's just how I consume my content. And YouTube is that perfect platform for me, because I would never. Have you ever used proxies when you edit like large projects? I used to film 4K on my GH5, and it would take forever to film that.
So what's interesting is when you start getting into smaller cameras like that like compress the file down so much, it's trying to like reopen it when it's in the edit, in the sequence. So I've noticed that like I've on my laptop edited red footage, R3D files, no issue, because it's such a good codec. And then I brought in like a Sony a Sony file that's compressed, and I'm sitting buffering for forever and like have to render in and out every single sequence that I edit. So it's really, and understanding that and then being like, okay, I need to make a proxy out of this, which is kind of a pain in the butt, but knowing, some people probably don't even know what proxies are. And, but that could cut your workflow in half, you know?
Yeah. But even knowing that that's available for you, I mean, cuts your workflow. I mean, it speeds it up.
And sometimes you don't learn about those things until you get onto bigger projects, and you're like, you see someone else do it, and you're like, what?
And that's why collaboration is so important, right? Me and you working together on passion projects to learn how you light things, to learn just watching you edit or something. Yeah. Just even the organization of everything. I don't know. It's
I think really a lot
important.
of people in the industry could agree with this too, and it's like why film school is like, there's pros and cons to it, of course. But it's hard to teach. You can teach theory and you can teach like mock setups, but till you're like in the thick of it and you have deadlines and you have to like work through projects in quicker times and you run into issues, like you can only learn so much from doing like fun school projects where there's not a lot at stake. So and when you're doing it non-stop all the time for money, like you're gonna run into way more issues that you're gonna have to solve.
So something I'm really excited about is when me, you, and Will get together to film this passion project that we've been talking about. Because really we've come from different backgrounds, whether it's how long we've been doing it or how we learned what we know. I am totally not self-taught, but like from YouTube, you know, just putting in the hours watching the YouTube videos, finding my mentors or people that I trust. And you guys, both you and Will, went to like film school or did some kind of video production for
I had a mentor basically before film school that kind of like taught me everything. And then film school was kind of just like that checking the box of school that I had to do for the family kind of deal. But dude, mentoring is huge. Like I actually am at the point now again where I like need to find a new mentor, and I'm actually like Steven at Voyage, I've been really talking with a lot. He's a director over there, and just like after every shoot, sitting down, like, what can I do better, improving my process, and just like seeing it from a different perspective. And his experience, he's got a ton of experience. I think that's huge. Because you're gonna. My biggest fear is hitting a point where I'm just like, I've got everything, and this is great. I don't need to go any further, which I don't think I will. Just that's not my personality. But always just like pushing, like, how can you improve your process? How do I do this better? Story, better. So,
do you ever consider doing mentor sessions for even begin? It's tough.
I hate that. So, because and this is why I like podcasts. I'm like walking a weird line on, because I hate talking about myself and I hate acting like yes, I'm a professional. I get paid to do this, but I hate saying that I'm like better than someone.
Absolutely.
And my work at the end of the day will like, if I get a project, it's because the client likes the stuff that they saw or whatever. But I don't want to be like, you suck, I'm great. You know, like I just don't think anyone gets anything out of that.
So. But I think you have a lot of value that you could give back. So it's one thing to market yourself to people that are just getting into videography or cinematography and saying like, you should learn from me. I want to teach you everything, blah, 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 blah. But like,
$1,000.
It's really cool when people come to you and they're like, hey, I really like your style.
For sure.
And you're like, wow, people actually look up to me for video kind of.
It's a weird thing.
It's a very weird thing, for sure. But you got to imagine, what were you like 3 years ago? Would you have wanted where you are now to teach that person, you know, what you know? Yeah. How valuable would that have been?
I mean, here's the thing too, and Steven from Voyage we had a conversation the other day, and he was like, what's crazy is like when you mentor, a lot of people feel the same way about it like I do. Like, it's kind of a weird place to be in, because you don't want to be like, I know everything, because no one does. And the people that are mentoring actually might learn more than the person that's getting mentored, because like you're getting feedback, a new perspective, so many different. I mean, it's just that collaboration again. And of course you have an expert that you're getting some knowledge from of like how to handle this issue, but they're getting stuff back too. So,
for sure.
Which is important, because then I feel like people are a little more open to being, mentors.
Yeah.
So.
A few episodes back, I had Hannah Ziegler on. She's a photographer locally.
For sure.
And she was talking about how she does a lot of mentor sessions. And she was saying how she learns mainly, like, the biggest thing she gets out of them is she learns more about how she either teaches or how she actually does a specific process, right? Yeah. When you teach somebody, rather than running through the workflow yourself of editing a video, when you're teaching somebody how to do it, you kind of question yourself, like,
is that actually correct?
Why do I do what I do?
Is that the fastest way I could do this?
Because people are picking your brain, right? Yeah. They're diving more into, well, why do you do it in this order? Why, like, how do you do this situation and this situation? They're not the same. So how do you kind of go on that?
Seriously, and it's great to have that. And I feel like that was the hard thing too, and why I'm pushing to do more work with bigger production companies now is, like, I got into the groove of doing a lot of work by myself and, like, maybe a handful of other people that were, like, on shoots with me, and then I did most of the editing. And then you don't get those moments, like, the edits were turning out good and clients were happy and all, but you don't get that, like, why are you doing it that way? And then if you don't have that person saying that, then it's like that project could lack, and you could just, like, your process, like, it's all about your process, how effective it is, and, like, how you're using time, especially when you're billing, like, people, like, and they're like, why did you spend 30 hours on this? And you'd be like, I did this the worst way possible. Like, so
super cool seeing, and it teaches you the avenue that you took and the avenue that whether they decide to follow or maybe it's kind of like, and I'm the furthest to know from this, but parenting, right? If you have a parent that beats the shit out of you or something like that, you probably don't want to beat your kid, right?
Yeah. That's a really harsh example, but
super hard.
But you just lost like 20 viewers at that. But it's okay, keep going.
I know. Hey, I'm gonna be myself. I'm gonna say a lot of things. Okay. And some of them are true.
I don't know if you need kids, but after that comment,
but on a very smaller level, you do something with editing and
it affects how you view the other stuff.
Yeah, whether you want to take that 180 and, like, go a totally different direction with it because you don't believe in that, or if you want to follow that very closely.
I think the hard thing and now is, like, a lot of people, whatever they hear, like, right away, that's how they judge it, or that's, like, the way they think is the only way to get through something. So you gotta watch how, like, you want to give insight to give them an example of how you got through the way you did, but every person's different in how they handle something and just, like, work ethics and there's a lot of influences into all of that. So I think the hardest thing is going to be is, like, if someone came up to me and was like, can you mentor me? First off, I'd say no. But if something happened and I ended up doing it, I'd be like, this is how I did it. Does not mean this is how you're going to do it. And I think, like, the key is, like, finding your passion and your route and all that stuff. And it's not easy in this industry, but it's, like, it's fun. So, and just don't try to be a copy. Like, not being original is, like, the biggest way to lose in this industry.
For sure. So really copying to the T, because I've thought about that. Like, all right, so when I started doing video, I watched Peter McKinnon's videos, and, like, vlogging isn't even what I wanted to do, but just getting comfortable in front of the camera is I would actually, something that helped me, I knew that it would never work out if I copied him to the T and then actually publish those videos.
Right.
So what I did was he would do a vlog and whatever it was, how to get steady footage or whatever, and he would teach, like, a class or a tutorial. And I knew that at some point in my career, I wanted to teach tutorials as well, but I knew I didn't have that leverage. I knew that I didn't have that really knowledge of how to teach a tutorial because I'm just starting.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would almost directly copy his tutorial and not publish it, just for the experience of learning how to do it.
I've heard a lot of people doing that,
and it helped me out a lot, but I'm really glad I didn't publish that stuff. Even in my mind, I knew that, well, not a lot of the people that follow me know of Peter McKinnon because I have a very different audience that I come from.
Think about that in the way, though, and I think I heard this on a podcast the other day. Like, what if I like this short film. Let me reshoot the whole thing and edit it. Not release it. That'd be a lot of money and work and all that, but think how much you'd learn.
Right.
Like, it's giving you the experience of going through that process, and that's everything. Like, that's how you get to the next level and do the projects you really want to do, is just, like, testing those waters. So And I've maybe done that when I was first starting, but I don't think I will do it, but it's a cool concept because it's like you're recreating something that's been done well. Hopefully. So if not, then cheers.
Just learn from someone that's crap.
Yeah. There's a lot of those out there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Well, that is, I think, where the video production scene is going. You know, it was. Cool.
It's always changing too, and just like, who knows what the technology is going to be at in the next year or two too.
And it's even going to be fun to look back at this in 2 years and see some of the things that we said and even the point that we're in to our business right now.
Yeah.
And kind of reflect on that. And that's why I like the podcast so much is you really get to sit down, have a conversation with somebody for 20 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, however.
Perspectives change. And it's great.
So I think it's a really cool, I enjoy doing it.
Me too.
I love having people on because with as busy of a world it is, like, we're very connected, but it's a lot of texting and waiting 2 hours for a response. Yeah, absolutely. So getting across, and this really came, I got a lot of the motivation from Scroove, the two, Kenny and Tyler, they were from Clio, east side of Michigan.
Right.
And they own their clothing brand, and they did the podcast. And they kind of explained that to me. They're like, it's just cool really diving into people's minds and getting deep into a conversation. Because it's not.
What's interesting is I'll be interested to see how much work you get off conversations like this. Because if I say I'm on a shoot tomorrow, if I sat down, I noticed this because I've had this experience. If I sat down with you, just literally seeing you, and you're like, "Hey, what are you shooting tomorrow?" I'm like, "Wait, I actually need someone to help me tomorrow."
Absolutely.
Boom, and you know, you just don't know what someone can bring to the table, and literally just like that human interaction is like. It brings out those moments and things, and that's Definitely. Because like one of the guys that I worked with often, like every time I would see him on a shoot, I get on more shoots, but then like if we had like a little break for a while and like I didn't like connect and like help him on other stuff or just like which makes it's just how life works. Like the more you're involved with certain people, the more they're gonna think about doing stuff, which when you're reaching in through a lot of people for a podcast, that's a fantastic way to get a community going.
Yeah, and you get to meet people you never really would have found an avenue of meeting too. I mean, I think a lot of people like to talk about themselves or what they're doing, but there are also a lot of people are interested.
I hate talking about myself.
A lot of people are interested in learning more about somebody that could potentially do work with them, right?
Absolutely.
So maybe let's say I'm a scuba diver, and I don't want to talk about
you actually?
I wish, dude.
Okay.
Dream of mine.
Yeah.
Have you ever been scuba diving?
No.
Dude.
Snorkeling.
It's going to be your dream after you try it once.
You're right.
I've done it in a pool. That's all I've done, and it's already my dream.
I don't even know how to swim, cool.
But dude, Katie doesn't either. You don't know how to swim?
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding. Katie does. Well, she says she doesn't know how to swim, and then we did a mini triathlon, and she had to swim a quarter mile, and she did it fine. And I'm like...
You just lied to me.
Her greatest fear is being on a boat in the middle of nowhere because she can't swim. And I'm like, whether you know how to swim or not, if your ship goes down in the middle of the ocean, you're done. You're done.
You can only swim so far. Shark's gonna eat you.
Yeah. Totally don't know where we're going.
Yeah, that was a sidetrack.
The guest for the podcast, but like maybe he's interested in like how people do cool videos for scuba diving. Because if he's into scuba diving, he's watched the YouTube videos and film projects.
National Geographic, yeah.
Dude, trying to use that as an example.
Sorry.
Man.
I had to.
Have you ever seen Earth?
Have you ever seen Planet Earth?
Yeah, have you looked outside?
No, have you actually seen Planet Earth?
Not on it.
What?
No.
It's a movie.
Planet Earth is?
Yeah. It's like the craziest cinematography.
That's what it's called, Planet Earth. That's what I was thinking of. That's what I was thinking of. No,
it's Monday.
It's a Netflix thing, right?
Yeah.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
We were watching it the other day. What a cool...
It's like shot like 8K. Yeah.
How do they get those shots? How did like this octopus just like snatching this little bug underwater?
Crazy waterproof housings.
That's insane. Mm-hmm. But I was asking Katie, where do you think they make the money for it? Like, are they selling...
I mean, there's got to be a big brand behind it that's paying for that. Like, I don't know who pays for that, but it's scientific. Like, that's a weird way to phrase that, but it's like science-based stuff. So there's got to be just like studying animals too. There's like you can learn a lot from that too. I feel like and it's gorgeous. That stuff is. I just watched the second one. I think they just came out with, and like the audio and the visuals are just like, wow. So
they put some time and money into it for sure. Yeah, it's not cheap to get a housing like that.
And it just takes forever to. I mean, you have to adapt into an animal's environment so you can make it look natural, and it's not, So.
Have you ever thought about filming like nature, not birds and shit like that? But I mean, you said you went turkey hunting, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to film anything?
Yeah,
like
I did,
that?
and it's really hard.
Yeah.
And you like would never guess. I went deer hunting with someone and filmed him doing that, and dude, you gotta. It's all depending on the animal you're hunting too, and that's a topic we don't really want to probably get too deep into, but it's hard because you got to know your stuff, and then you're trying to basically not exist in an environment, so
that's a episode for
another time,
a topic for a different episode.
It's Monday.
Whatever, dude. Whatever. It's been rough. We might as well just cut it off.
Yeah, need more coffee.
It's been good. Yeah. I know. I'm all out too. So we'll fill up. I'm stoked to have you on the next. Jesus Christ. Should we cut it? No, it's been a fun conversation.
No, I appreciate
you
having me.
Keep it short so I don't mess this up too much. But it's been a fun conversation
for sure.
I think we went over a lot of cool stuff. And maybe we'll meet in another month, try to do it a monthly thing, and
that'd be
we'll
awesome.
See where it goes with it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm still in this industry.
I don't doubt it, dude. I don't doubt it.
Yeah. Keep the grind.
All right, man. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Later.